I wanted to show a piece of software. If you've been hanging out, if you've been in touch with Little Kids Rock, we've been doing some live streams the past 2 weeks. I think we started them early or late of 2 weeks ago. And those have been basically just like casual lessons on a variety of topics and a variety of instruments. And we're trying to just make sure we're keeping our ears open to teachers to see what they need and what they are most interested in. And those are being streamed from the Little Kids Rock YouTube page. So if you search for Little Kids Rock on YouTube, you'll be able to find us there. We also have a full schedule up on our curricular website, which is jamzone.littlekidsrock.org. I know a lot of you are familiar with Jamzone. But I am today going to show you one of my favorite pieces of software. The reason it's my favorite is because it's like fully compatible with Google Classroom. It has an education platform, and the makers of this software are offering teachers free use of, like, expanding the free trial period of it up until June. So normally they just do 1 month free trial and then you have to pay after that. But they're expanding that because everyone is in crisis. So I am going to share my screen right now to show you the software. And Jason, if anything pops up, I'm not going to see anything. So just like shout in my ear and holler at me. So let's do. So everyone should hopefully be able to see this. So this is the back end of the website. So the website is soundtrap.com, and it says /livestream just because that's my username is livestream, because Little Kids Rock made our own little thing. And what Soundtrap is it's basically GarageBand meets Google Docs. So if you think of all the features of a Google Doc, that like they're all based on the cloud, you can start one Google Doc on your cell phone and then finish it on your computer. You can email it to someone. You can collaborate with people on it. It's all saved on the cloud. You can download it when you're ready to work with it. It's basically GarageBand meets that. So if you've ever worked with a digital audio workspace, a DAW, it's that. So I've been making this little project on it on the live streams, but I'm going to start something fresh just so I can show you how you can get started with very, very little knowledge at all. So I'm going to enter the studio. And if you're familiar with DAWs, it's going to look pretty familiar to you. And I'm going to hit a music project. So right now I'm just going to shrink this a little bit. I've got what is just a blank project right now. And there's these little music notes on the side here. And what these are is just loops. And so the loops are just little audio loops. So there's little percussion, there's these beats, there's a lot of drums, but there's also like, ooh, this is really quiet. Which actually sounds really cool. I like that. I'm going to save that one. And you can think of these loops as basically like almost like colors in a canvas. Like no artist is like making their own paints from scratch, but they can still make beautiful paintings, even though very few artists are still making their own paints. So I like to think of it as like that. So I'm going to grab some of these loops and I'm going to put them together in a project to start making something. So I'm going to take that reverse piano because it sounded really cool. And I'm literally just going to click and drag and drop. And now I have this reverse piano loop. And let's throw some hi-hat rolls. Yeah, those don't sound very good. Ooh, and some old piano on top of it. And then let's get like a drum beat. Do a full beat. Okay. Sorry, is that a question coming in?
No, I think people just have their microphones on.
Okay,
so
cool.
If let me see if I can mute everybody for right now, just so that, except for Spencer. I'll unmute you, Spencer, in just a second.
So I'm having trouble finding a beat just from these ones that are all in alphabetical order. So I'm going to use some of the search terms. So this is, right now it's I'm searching for only originals, which I guess is like the Soundtrap originals. And I'm going to do a little bit of searching. So I want some drums, and I kind of want this. This has kind of got like a, it's kind of even almost got a little bit of like a jazzy feel to it. So I'm going to search for jazz drums. And there's, that's a little too busy. All right, let's see what that jazz ballad sounds like. And now we've got, it's really interesting. That jazz ballad, it looks like it's 2.5 measures long. So I'm going to delete that one because I don't really like that one. And instead of jazz, let's try some like really heavy drums. Why not? These are quite busy. So we have this like big contrast. So you can obviously like, I did not plan out which loops I was going to be using. I've just been searching. So I could obviously spend all day searching for loops, finding ones that I like a lot. You don't need to watch me search. And already you can get started with a project. And what's neat about this is that all of the sounds on this, whether they're made with MIDI or whether they're made with audio, all of the tempo and key information are in those sounds. So the software automatically syncs them up to be in the same tempo and the same key, which is really cool. So I don't actually like those drums that much, but we can, maybe just something simple like some R&B drums. And that'll be, there we go. That's all we wanted. It's just something nice and simple. Cool, awesome. And I'm gonna delete that track and we can get going. Very nice. So all of that stuff, as I said, already auto syncs to tempo. So if I wanted to change the tempo of this song, like right now the tempo is 160. If I wanted to change it to like 134, it will automatically adjust everything and we'll get like this really slowed down beat. If I wanted to change the key, right now it says it's in C minor. So if I wanted to bring it up to D, let's adjust everything and it'll adjust all the pitch. Now that sounds really distorted. I kind of like C minor though, but just to show you that feature. So already, even if I'm a student who has zero experience, I can't read music, I can't play an instrument, students can drag and drop and they can listen and they can say, oh, this sounds cool together. This doesn't sound cool together. If you have students who are looking to go a little deeper and you're like, okay, cool, we can make a simple loop. Great. What if we wanted to add our own stuff? So we can, just as in any DAW, like Garageband, you can perform your own music as well. So let's add a new track. And let's say we wanted to add a piano line. And another little fun feature here is that there's these keys here that I can press, but I can also play them on my keyboard. So by hitting ZX, CVB, N, and I'm in C minor right now, so definitely takes a little getting used to be able to play this stuff. But I'm just going to bring it up an octave, and let me try playing a piano part on it. Oh, I'll turn them up. All right, so we have a little plinky piano line, and so a student could, record their own thing. If you had students who wanted to sing over it, we can add an audio track, and we can actually record the audio on this. You might get a little bit of feedback right now from me, just because it's like trying to do two things at once. Yes, I'm using headphones. So you might hear like two of my voice right now just because of the recording. So if I wanted to record something really quick, start recording. 1, 2, 3, 4. So right there, I've got a little audio recording. So this is just like a super quick rundown of like those main features. So when I think of this in the classroom, the things that I'm thinking about are creating projects that students can do individually. Oh, let me turn off that feedback. That students can do individually, or they can also do on the in groups if they wanted to collaborate. And the one nice thing about this is you can collaborate on these projects. So if I go over here to the little, it's like two little people, kind of a teal color, I could invite another person. So I could invite someone else who has a Soundtrap account to work on my project. So if you have your students all set up accounts, then they can work with each other to collaborate and make a project together. The possibilities from here are like kind of huge. Like you've got an audio recording software here. And if I'm thinking of projects, if I were to go from like the most basic project, like I could say, okay, students, your job is to create an 8-bar loop, and which you can see the measures up here. If I zoom in a little bit, your job is to make an 8-bar loop using 3 or more sounds, a percussive sound, a harmonic sound, and a melodic sound, at least, and then describe the sounds that you hear or something like that. So you've got some musical skills that students are working on there remotely. If you had students that were a little more advanced, you could say, okay, cool. I'm going to, your job is to create a project in a key and record a melody over in that key. If you had students who are instrumentalists, who are focusing on playing their instruments at home, you could scrap the whole project. I'm just gonna, I actually like some of these things, so I'm gonna just mute them instead of deleting them. And you could say, cool, your job is to record an instrument and record yourself playing, so that way I can hear something you've been working on. You can sing a song, play an instrument, whatever it is that you might be working on. If I had students who were even more advanced than that and were learning about, say, like song form and stuff like that, there's a lot of different fun things that I can take with this. So for example, let's say I had a song and I wanted it to be, oops, zoom out just a tiny bit more. And I wanted it to be a song that was like verse, chorus, verse, chorus. So let's take these parts and I can drag them out. I've highlighted them. And then there's a little, it's like a circle on the top left corner. I can drag that out to say, make it 16 bars long. So now we're through to 16 bars. And I want to create some variety in my song as well. So rather than just having the same old thing for 16 bars, let's try making a little bit of variation. One neat thing about a lot of these beats is that they all have names, and either the producers who submit the beats or how, I'm not exactly sure like how it works on their end. But if someone creates several beats that are similar, for instance, they might make a drum beat that uses like 3 different drums and they have like a few different variations on it. They'll have the same name and then just a number at the end of it. So you can see we've got this one's sort of like pieces of it. Like there's anthem beat 1. And then there's anthem beat 1 fill. So if I wanted the same drum sounds in the anthem beat, but I wanted it to be like a drum fill, I could say like, cool, okay, I want this anthem beat, and then I want the last part of it to be a drum fill. I can drag all these pieces together. Hold on, I'm getting a little bit of latency. Can we play? Are you gonna play? Oh. I dragged a drum part into a piano track, and that is why it is playing piano sounds. I'm gonna start it into a fresh track. So if we had that, and then, oh, it looks like if I had this fill, but I just want this fill to be the last part of this. So I could, you know, have very similar sounding drums. One more. 1, 2, 3, 4 on the fill. And then they could, you know, go back into something without having dramatically different drum sounds. For instance, if I just searched for any random drum fill, it might just sound like, oh, here is a drum fill from one song and a drum beat from a completely different song. So in that regard, let's take a look at a couple of the sounds that I found and come up with some variations on them. So Beanie was this drum part. So there's Beanie kick 3, Beanie beat 1, and what did I do? I did Beanie beat 3. So let's see what Beanie beat 1 sounds like. Kind of driving. Okay, so let's say that becomes the beat in the chorus. Oops, that needs to be there. So it'll go from this beat, kind of loose, to this driving one. But all the drum sounds are pretty similar. And then let's go from this Brampton vinyl piano. What is that? Brampton. I can search for that. Oh, need a couple more search terms. Vinyl. Where is it? Vinyl piano. There we go. There it is. The Brampton vinyl piano. Let's. Which one did I use for this first one? What was the name of this track? Let's switch it over to number 11. So we go from so we stay in the same realm of things without veering too far off. So it's a great way to like create continuity within your projects. I am going to go back to the recording just really quickly, the audio recording that I made, just to show a couple other features that you can do. So I'm going to solo this. And one thing that I like a lot about this in terms of like learning about different elements of music is you can add effects to the music that you have. So I can open up the track. I do that just by clicking the little icon to the left of it. And there's this knob here that says effects. And so I can go into this. And already at the top, I've got a few that I can choose from. Moment, I'm just going to loop this so you can hear my voice. If I turn the tone, let's see what the tone does. So it like makes it a little bit brighter. All right, what does the reverb do? All right, so now I'm singing in a cavern. If I turn the reverb all the way down, sounds just like when I'm talking to you. The pan, let's see what the pan does. So now, for those of you wearing headphones, you're definitely going to notice this. It should all be coming out the left side of your ear, whereas if I go to the right. It's now coming out the right side. And then volume, again, volume is volume. So how loud or soft. So those are like some basic effects, but then there's here in our little effects board, we have the parametric EQ and the EQ in the equalizer, which these are just presets. Like if you make a track, these are the presets in it. I'm not going to worry about these at all, but I'm going to hit this add effects button to show you some of the other things. So I'm going to zoom in a tiny bit just so you can see these a little bit better. But all of these are just different effects. Now this might look totally overwhelming, and you might think to yourself like, what am I going to do with all these things? I don't know what, I know what some of these do. I don't know what all of these do. One thing I like about them is they're all pretty simple in that they only have one or two dials. If I were to go to, for instance, like a guitar pedal board and look at some of the effects on a guitar pedal board, a lot of them are really really in depth and really have like 4 or 5 different nozzles. I just said nozzles, dials. So let's just pick one. Let's pick a delay and see what that does. So it sort of created this echo effect. So one thing I really like about these is that it's a chance for students to explore different ways in which they can they can edit audio and manipulate audio and learn about these things. All right, so I've been talking for about 25 minutes. I could definitely go deeper and continue on with this stuff, but I wanted to take a pause to make sure that that I'm not hogging all the air.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
I've used GarageBand with my 4th and 5th graders this year, and they really love it. Are you able to do things like have one voice enter and then 8 measures later plant the beginning of the new voice like you do in GarageBand?
Definitely, yeah.
Oh,
so let me just show you really quickly from like an arranging perspective. If I wanted to say I wanted all of, you could, any of these loops, you can just drag, you can just drag them around. So for example, if I wanted to think about like, as you said, like arrangement, like dragging voices around. Okay, I want this cool ethereal piano to play, and then I want the drums, and then this voice is going to come in, so you can layer stuff like that. So let's give that a real quick listen.
Does it also have the fade in and fade out feature of GarageBand where you can make the track slowly increase its volume from nothing as it enters?
Yes.
That's the whatever you show the I forget what it's called. You can get that yellow line.
Yeah. Yes. So that is what's called automation.
That's right, the automation.
Yeah. And so I don't, because I'm working with the free version. If you reach out to Soundtrap and get the education platform, you'll get the full version. I can show you that with this. I think I get it on one track at a time. So with automation, I can automate the volume. And then I can say like, okay, I want this to start really low and then slowly build, even though this track already kind of does that automatically. I feel like Kendrick Lamar is about to drop something over this.
This is
kind of got that legs. I want that piano to come in a little bit earlier. So yeah, you can definitely make arrangements of things like that. And if I had if I were using an account on the full version, you'd be able to do those fades and do those with as many tracks as you wanted. And a fun thing is, just as I did the audio recording with messing around with the effects in the audio, you can also add those effects to instruments. So if I have this piano here, let's move my looper so we hear just that piano part that I recorded. I can go to add effects, and if I wanted to like have the piano have a ton of reverb, if I wanted the piano to sound like a guitar and have overdrive, I could do that. But that could be a lot of fun for students if it's like, oh, I play like the trumpet. Let me record a trumpet part. Oh, let me like mess around with my trumpet and make it sound really funky. These effects aren't just for guitar players. But if I wanted to throw in a little delay, so you can really just like, even if you are a student who doesn't know what these things are and doesn't know the formal names or like the like technical sonic properties of things, like, oh, I know that a delay creates a replication of the sound and plays it after, like, if you don't know that, that's totally fine. You can still sandbox this stuff. It's very much that like music as a second language approach where you're able to take a sound and manipulate it and see what it does, and just learn from an audio perspective. Be like, oh, when I added delay, it made it echo, and I liked that. Or like when I added distortion, it just started to sound really fuzzy, and that made my trumpet sound really cool. Or like earlier today on the live stream, I like recorded a little line on my acoustic guitar, and then I added some distortion, and it was like, oh, now my acoustic guitar sounds like an electric guitar. Thank you for that question, Charles.
Yeah, I'm thinking class-made backing tracks with all kinds of things the kids can do during silences in the backing track. This is phenomenal.
Yeah, definitely. So like the projects could be like, obviously projects in and of themselves. You could go anything from like, make a small loop to like produce a fully mixed track with audio effects. Like I could go in with this software and make something that's really expansive, that has a lot of different layers. Or it could be a small part of a project. Like, oh, I want you to practice, the chords to this song that we've been working on in class on your guitar. Create a backing track for you to practice with. Something that just makes it a little bit more fun. So pick a drum beat and pick a tempo. Like even as something as simple as that, it could be like, oh, this doesn't sound good. Oh, what's the tempo at? Oh, let me adjust the tempo. So the students are able to like guide their own learning, so it could be parts of projects. And then with something like this, if I wanted to, I can download it as well. So if I hit save, I can save my project. Oh, we could call it something cooler. Maine is the best state ever. So this new song called Maine is the best state ever. And if I go to Exit Studio, I can also download the song. So if I wanted to like have an MP3 that I could email to students, it takes a little bit of time for the song to mix. So right now it's not going to let me download it just because it's like processing all of the information right now, because it's processing it all online. But definitely more questions.
Can you hear me, Spencer?
Yes.
I have two questions with that. Again, my background is with GarageBand. So if you already have a backing track, can you drag that as an individual track already and then have them voice over? Like, they have to sing their part over the track you already currently have. And the second part of that question is, there is a little bit of exporting, steps when you have to do export from GarageBand. Could you just explain that process? I see you download, but GarageBand's a little bit more finicky with it.
Yeah, I will show you that. I think, let me start a brand new project so that this can finish mixing, so I can show you how that works. So that way I'm not adding to it, so it just says like, so it never lets me download it because it'll just keep changing. So I'm gonna exit to the studio, save this project, let it mix. So that can go keep working in the background. Oh, I have this other one that I have downloaded. But to answer your first question, if we start a new project, I have a backing track on my computer And I think this will work. Let's see what happens when I try and drag that into the project. Look at that.
Okay.
This was just a drum beat that I had on my computer. One thing to be mindful of is where all of these tracks have that information, that like tempo and key information within them in the software. If I just pull in some random track that I've created, the software is just going to be able to play that audio. It's not going to automatically know, oh, this is a backing track that's at 90 BPM and that's in the key of A minor. I'll adjust the track. So if you were trying to just throw in a backing track into something else, that wouldn't work. But if you, for example, you said, oh, I already have a backing track, I want students to just play over it. Yeah, you could make this backing track, and then you could send that out to as an assignment to students. So you could say, here's this backing track, record your part over it, or sing over it, or whatever it is that the students want to do, and you want the students to do with that project. Let me see if I can download that other song just so we can see what that process looks like. So let's exit the studio one more time. I haven't downloaded a song in a very long time from Soundtrap, so I'm pretty sure the process is just hit download and it downloads, but let's double check. Oh, this is taking a long time because it's like a 5-minute drum loop that I just dragged in. And so it's like processing 5 minutes of audio. I'm sorry. Let me just delete that. That'll make it a little bit quicker. So here's this other project that I was working on in the live stream. And if I hit download, email to, okay, so two things. So one, I don't know if you can see it on the bottom of my screen, but it just downloaded as if I had clicked any other download. And then I guess I can also email it to myself.
No, I think this is the whole download for a friend, refer, and stuff like that. Who do you want to send it to?
Oh, I see. Oh, so this is just like if I want, yeah, so I can also share the project out to other people.
Because it's still downloading.
Yeah. So it just was, I don't know if you can see this on the bottom left corner of my screen, but it just downloaded. So it was that quick. I just hit download and it was like, it downloaded as fast as any audio file that I was downloading off my computer would download. I think it might be just because of the nature of things, you might get like slightly higher quality audio from something like GarageBand because it, just of the way it processes it. But this is for student work. It's going to be totally fine. So I can pull this into a new project and we can even listen to what it sounded like. So I think I recorded some vocals and I don't remember what they said. So we're going to be surprised by what was happening. So here's my other song, which was called Bop Till You Drop. This one goes out to anyone who is stuck at home right now. Yep. Yeah. So there we go. My other project, which had all these different. I feel you. I'm stuck at home too. I was bemoaning the fact that I was stuck at home on the live stream. As I'm sure you could, some of you can relate. Maine is, so let's jump back into Maine is the best state ever, and let's take some more questions. Wait time?
Does anybody see themselves being able to use this to augment or for some lessons in the interim if we can't have kids in front of us?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, we're probably going to be sending things out in Google Classroom soon to the kids.
Yeah. I have never, I've never been in the position of a teacher using Soundtrap in my classroom. I used other interfaces when I was teaching music production. But from what I have heard from Soundtrap and what I've heard from teachers is that Soundtrap is designed to be completely compatible with Google Classroom. So you can create an assignment in Google Classroom or sorry, you can create like a template, for example, in Soundtrap, and then submit that as an assignment in Google Classroom. So the people at Soundtrap really tried to make it as easy as possible for teachers to be able to submit and collect work from their students.
Charlie, let me spend a little bit of time looking into that for everybody, and then I'll see if I can present something next week
Yeah.
as a PD session for everybody.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Do they have tutorials there on Soundtrap that can help you through this?
Yes. So
Great.
the first time you open up the software itself, it like plays a little video that's like, hey, let's show you around. And also on their website, they have a lot of tutorials that will show you all the different elements of things. And I think they even have an external, like another website where teachers have submitted like lesson ideas and such. Because I know that this is a really popular software, not only for music classrooms, but like for anyone who's looking to create audio-based assignments for teachers, for students. So a lot of teachers, for instance, in like history classes or in ELA classes will have their kids like as an assignment, make a podcast about, you know, the history of this, a book review, a book report podcast, something along those lines. And they'll use the features in this software to allow students to be able to collaborate, to work on their projects at home, to work on their projects in school, and be able to like bounce them around just as they could on, as I said, like a Google Doc, but an audio project for themselves.
If everybody looks in the chat box, I put a link to their education page, and if you scroll down about 2/3 of the way, or no, actually scroll down about halfway, they have examples of how teachers are using Soundtrap today. So for literacy, they say record your own reading to improve fluency, and they have a lesson plan for that. Music, obviously, create your own ringtone is the lesson plan they have there. World language, learn a new language by creating a podcast. Science, tech, and business and math all have sample lessons as well. So, you know, you may find a way to collaborate with some of your colleagues in your building on some integrated lessons using this platform.
Yeah, and being as a musician who, as like a gigging musician, I know that it's really, even though I'm not an expert music producer by any stretch of the imagination, like I do a little bit of home production, but like no one hires me to produce their music, nor should they. I know that like having just like the rough chops of being able to record my own music, to be able to add drum beats, to be able to produce my own backing tracks, and to be able to just generally manipulate audio is a really valuable skill that even if you do it at a really basic level, regardless of your musical, like your musical focus, it's a great thing to be able to do. So even like if I were to be working on a project, like I'm a podcast editor as well, and my like audio editing skills that I do editing podcasts improves my audio editing skills when I'm doing music production as well, because it's still the same. I'm working within the DAW like Garageband, and I'm still learning how to like manipulate the audio, move it around, doing things like cutting and splitting it, working on the fade in and outs that Charles was talking about. All those different elements of the music and that skill set that are part of it.
I just put another link in the chat box for everybody. That academy.soundtrap.com, they offer a free course that I don't know if at the end, if it spits out a certificate for you or not, but that may be something that you might be interested in taking part in, and it's a self-paced course, so something to take a look at, led by a music teacher in Austin, Texas.
The music capital, or is that Nashville?
You got it.
It probably depends if you ask someone from Nashville or ask someone from Austin.
right.
So like obviously like this is like the world is your oyster with this, and you can kind of do anything you want with it. I've been looking at some other fun ideas for students to do things that are like learning how to do music and manipulate audio without having it seem like a daunting music task. And one thing that they have in this is I can go to edit on this piece of audio, and there's a lot of different ways you can adjust the audio. So one, I wish I could show you right now, but I'm using the free version, is there's an auto-tune feature, which makes you sound like T-Pain. You know, it does that classic like, like it auto-tunes you, it just super pitch corrects you. And it sounds really cool. Oh, you can reverse the audio. Can I do that with the free version? I can. I didn't even notice this before. So if you want to make like a remake of a Beatles album, you can reverse the audio. So you can reverse the audio. There's vocal transformers. So I can pitch it up and pitch it down. I don't think I can do any of these with the free version. Oh, it's letting me do it. Or is it gonna? Let's see if it does it. While this is transforming, one of the, listen to a preview of the transform, is it gonna say, oh yeah, it's telling me I have to do the other. But I can listen to a preview of it. So let's actually listen to that preview. So let's see if I wanted to do like robot voice and see what robot voice sounds like. One fun project that I was thinking of would be for a student to write a short story with a couple different characters, and then to do character voices for those characters. So for example, if they wanted to do a robot, I mean, let's see what this happens if let's see what happens if I, instead of singing, just say something. Hello, I am a robot. I think Maine is the best state ever. I wish Maine had more robots. So let's see what this sounds like. Hello, I am a robot. I think Maine is the best state ever. So I was thinking a really fun activity, let me turn that off, would be to, like, if you pitched it up, you could have someone make like a mouse voice, like Alvin and the Chipmunk style. There's the robot voice, which obviously is just it's basically like a bunch of filters that it puts your voice through to make it sound like a robot. There's one that makes it sound like an alien. There's baby voice. I thought a fun activity would be to write a story and have a clean narrator voice that was just like, hi, I am the narrator and this is the voice. Or maybe even have the narrator voice like have a bunch of reverb so it sounds really omniscient. And then have characters. So it's like, hello, I am a robot, said the robot, and have the student try doing that. Actually, a podcast that I like to listen to sometimes is called LeVar Burton Reads, and it's hosted by LeVar Burton of Reading Rainbow fame. So he is obviously no longer doing Reading Rainbow, but he has this podcast called LeVar Burton Reads, where he reads adult short stories, and he does character voices. And also, like, not only does he himself do character voices just by like putting them on with his voice, but sometimes they will the audio engineer will actually go in and affect the voice. So if there's like an alien or a robot or something like that, they'll kind of like enhance the story that way. Another element of that could be like write a story and then find some music that works well underneath the story. So that way we're not only telling a story, we are telling the story and we're setting the atmosphere with the appropriate music. So many different approaches to what you could do with this. There's, countless options for it. Questions?
No, my mind's just spinning. This is so cool. It's just like, how do we do it all in 1 year? I mean, you could fill up 5 years with this.
Oh, you could fill up, yeah, you could fill up a lifetime with this.
Oh,
You can never.
the one thing I did want to say is when I was doing this with kids' laptops, some would have one version of GarageBand and one would have another, and this is the great equalizer, so everybody's working the same way.
Yeah, one thing I really like about this is that it doesn't matter what devices you have in your school. I know a lot of schools will say like, oh, we've got iPads, we have Chromebooks, we have MacBooks. And because it's web-based, it doesn't matter what device you're on. So the platform looks a little bit different on mobile, but it has all the same features. You can do all of the same stuff. So that's one thing that I really like about it. Because if you had, and then it also like it secures your projects. For example, like if I'm a student and I have, oh, this was a thing that happened when I was doing my student teaching. Is we were using hardware that was on we were using software on the computer, and sometimes kids would like go into other kids' projects and mess them up. But here, like you're protected because you have to log in to access your project, or you're sharing it with a person that is your collaborator, and then your collaborator, it's like it's you and your collaborator. No one can go in and mess around with your project if they're in a different class or using the same machine. So that's one thing that I really like about it. And Charles, as you were saying, like, oh yeah, you could fill 5 years with this. Like, yeah, there's people who edit audio for a living and they have 50-year careers out of it, and they never come up with they're always coming up with new and creative things to do with it. So it's so much like it's a playground that you can completely make your own, and it has a lot of different features. And where you choose to go with it is sort of up to you. I have one more feature that I can think of to share, but I want to take some time for questions if not right now. Does anyone have other like concerns or like hesitancies or things that I'm not thinking of that they want to share?
Well,
I just want to make sure that I'm considering things.
I hate to monopolize like this, but I just sent something in the chat room like I have no technology standards that I can draw from to give some kind of assessment for this. So I'm going to have to talk to our curriculum coordinator, but Jason said that they might be coming down the pike. I would be great to see.
What do you mean by no technology standards?
Well, it doesn't say, it says you'll compose using standard instruments, but there's nothing that addresses the fact that we now have all this technology to do composing and arranging. And I have trouble matching up the language of how
in our state level standards.
Oh, I see the standard, like the actual state standards. Yes.
Yeah, because when they came out in the mid 2000s, there wasn't a whole lot accessible of music technology for the everyday experience in a classroom. So, but I know that there's been talk with our steering committee that's looking at the standards right now that technology in all of our disciplines in the arts in Maine need to be there needs to be language to address that. So I think you'll see that coming down the line.
I mean, also, this is obviously, I can't say whether this would hold water or not. But, if I add instruments to something, yes, they're electronic instruments, but they're instruments. And oftentimes they're replicated off of acoustic instruments as well. Here's a little feature that I'm going to show you. So here's this piano part that I recorded. If I didn't, oh my gosh, I'm turning down the reverb and I'm turning off the delay because that's going to drive me crazy. So a piano is obviously an instrument that was thought of in 2004. If I wanted to change this, so right here is like, it's saying it's a piano. If I wanted to change this to another instrument, like here's a clarinet. It's in the free version. It's not a great clarinet, but it's, a synth clarinet. Here's a tuba. It's a tuba at an extremely high octave, higher than any tuba player could play. But if I brought this down in pitch, it would sound a lot more like a tuba. Let me actually. There we go. Something a little more tuba-like. But so you could even with those standard instruments, you know, I can take, you know, acoustic guitar sounds. Gosh, there's so many. If I wanted to do like, I mean, if I wanted to take things more electronic-y, but all of those instruments that, for instance, if you were writing sheet music in Sibelius, or if you were writing sheet music even by hand that you would be writing for, all those instruments, I mean, you know, French horns, trombones, trumpets, like you can arrange parts for those things in these pieces of software as well.
So if I could jump in with a question.
Yes.
I did some of this, again, through GarageBand, but years ago. And hey, Charles, I would be happy to share. I have like a whole unit of materials with rubrics for grading and all of that sort of stuff that I would be happy to share with whoever might be able to use them. One project that we did was creating commercials for our local radio station and taking like activities going on at the school. It was a way of advertising even our concerts, upcoming concerts, and students chose whether it was a basketball game or the new season or what, you know, they would choose something that was of interest to them, but that had real meaning. So there was some real world application within their school. And the project ended with a trip to the radio station where they could learn how that all works. They were in the studio and actually learning that, and they took the commercials that the students made and tweak them in the studio so that they could bring the kid's voice up so it could be heard over the backgrounds, or, you know, so they learn some of those things that they could do within GarageBand, but they also could perfect in a studio. So they kind of saw that transition.
Yeah, that's so cool. And for them to like obviously have it be like real world application, and also to be promoting, you know, there are other activities like for those kids that are like promoting sporting events and stuff like that they're involved in. That's so cool. And then to have like a professional be like, oh cool, this is really neat, here's how you could like make it even better, these are things that we have to watch out for, like as you were saying, like making sure that the voice was high enough in the mix. That's what an amazing opportunity. Charles?
It was really fun.
Oh, sorry.
My question is, are all the loops public domain, if you will? Are there any issues with I was asked that by the radio station, that all of these loops that the students are using as backgrounds to their voice tracks, and that I wasn't going to run into any kind of issues with playing those over the airwaves.
Yes, all of the sounds that are in Soundtrap are public domain. Like if you are using Soundtrap, then like if you publish a song, make money off it using these loops, it is my understanding that that is totally fine. I'm gonna double check that. I'm like almost certain, but I haven't gotten an email from a Soundtrap person that says yes, this is the case. It's more like my understanding of it, but I'm gonna write myself a note to ask someone at Soundtrap about that, because that's obviously a really important question.
Alice, I just had a question. What grade level did you do this at? Your project?
I did it with 7th and 8th graders. But I think you can adjust it up or down. I mean, I got pretty specific with some of the like certain key changes that I wanted, or certain, like they had to create a 12-bar blues, or, you know, there were some specific parameters. And I tried to hit lots of different genres of music and that sort of stuff. But I mean, I'm retired now, so I'm not actively using those lessons, but I'm sure they still live within the files on my computer, and I would be happy to dig them out. And the other thing that we really worked hard in developing our rubrics was to look cross-curricular, that if you go to your technology standards, that sometimes you can find those technology standards that you're playing into. And even the English standards, the students who are writing, you know, public service announcements, those is a different style of writing from some of the other, and you can incorporate those things into your rubrics, which always gets you lots of points across the curriculum within the school, that the other teachers love it when you're helping do what's in their standards. And I think it brings us out of the isolation sometimes and puts us more in the mainstream of what's being taught.
Or I just add, you could probably collaborate. They write the story or whatever it is in the English class, and then you on top. I mean, there's so many ways you can attack that individual learning lesson in multiple content areas.
Definitely, I agree.
That's like a perfect middle school thing right there that you did.
It was fun. We really, it was enjoyable, and it allowed the students too to choose something that was of interest to them, because you always get the students who are all gung-ho for music, and then the kids who are like, yeah, I have to do this general music thing. Music's really not, I'm an athlete or whatever that is. All those stereotypes that seem to play out, especially in middle school, that you get their attention. It's like, oh no, you're gonna be writing the commercials for the upcoming soccer season or whatever that is, and as you get each group of middle schoolers during the school year, there's new activities going on, so you can repeat that with each group of middle schoolers as they move through the school year, because you're not repeating the same activities.
I'll just say one other thing, adding to that, what she's saying. I used to teach Garageband at the high school level, but what I did was I went to the elementary K-2, and I asked the teachers to pick out a book for my high school students to do the reading and then do the manipulative over that. And then it was shared with that particular, it was a one-on-one. So the high school kid did that book and did the voiceovers and all of the manipulation and sent it back to that first grader. And that's big brother, big sister type of a thing. And it's real world.
There's a lot of expeditionary learning units happening these days. This would be a perfect way to tie in for that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I see your email there, Charles. I will dig out those materials and send them on to you for sure.
Thank you, muchly appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd actually be really interested in, like, because obviously not just music teachers are teaching remotely right now, but how you could collaborate with other teachers who are using this to do project-based learning. As you were saying about the like the students wanting to make something for like a sporting event as opposed to because if they're less interested in music, I think it's just like what you were saying goes to show that like it's important to, obviously, like Little Kids Rock, we tout student-centered music all the time because music is our MO, but like student-centered learning across the curriculum, be it, whatever the student is most interested in, be it sports or be it, whatever it might be. Can I request a 5-minute stretch break? I need to go use the bathroom. So I'm gonna, would you please mute me and then
All right, everybody, we can take a break for a bit.
Hey, Sandy, how you doing?
I'm okay, Charlie. How are you?
I'm great. My brain is just spinning. This was awesome. This is awesome.
Great to see everybody here and hear the awesome questions and comments. This is, mind-blowing for me too.
While you all have been conversing and Spencer's been leading you through some things, I've written the corporate people at Soundtrap to see if they would provide a trainer to do a session or a series of sessions with us for statewide. So I'll let you know when I hear back from that, and I may be able to set that up as a PD opportunity, not just for music people, but for our language arts colleagues as well. And this could be a really great way if we can get a good mixture of different disciplines on a training or two. It would help you to connect with your colleagues and be able to come up with some really great projects for your kids.
Hey, Jason.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I shared that Music First with you as well. They're offering, there's like 10 different apps on theirs, but
Yep.
if you go online, Music First, they're doing similar things. He goes pretty fast, but they're offering the same thing for each one of those apps, those separate apps, which are embedded into their platform, just FYI.
We just got a survey from MMEA about what we're going to do about the all-state in-service, and this would be something we might want to consider. I don't know if it's time to do, if we can do it this year, but this would be definitely worthwhile for next year.
What do you think, Sandy?
We're full.
Yeah,
but I was just typing in the chat that if you know Tracy Williamson at Gorham, she's a Soundtrap like certified teacher, and we're really trying. She's offering some things this year, and to get her to focus in on Soundtrap or some of the other things where she has expertise. She'll definitely, you know, she's very flexible and she uses this stuff all the time. Yeah.
Sandy, who's that again?
Tracy Williamson at
Tracy
Gorham.
Williamson. Okay.
Yeah. I'm typing
Okay.
it into the chat right now.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd like to reach out to her and see if she'd be willing to step up and do some, offer a PD for this. That'd be cool.
Yep.
Thank you.
Now I
Still have
missed
2 more
my
minutes to
hand.
stretch. 2 hours is a long time to sit around. So,
How big is your apartment, Spencer? You probably climbing the walls, aren't you?
so in that stretch break, I spanned the entire length of the apartment and back. It is. I live in a studio apartment in Queens. It's not exactly. It might be maybe 500 square feet. Yeah, I could give you the grand tour. All I'd have to do is just rotate my computer. So, any further questions, comments specifically to that? I'm just gonna. I'll show one other feature of this, and then I'll go into the part of the activity where I start asking questions. So I'm gonna add a new track, and I'm going to add a drum beat. One other fun feature that the software has is a drum beat. What is it called? A drum machine, like a drum pattern beat maker, so this is something that if you've seen the grids of the drum notation that Little Kids Rock puts out, it's very similar to that. It's just kind of backwards because the kick drum is on top and the hi-hat is on the bottom. But if I just start putting in ever, Maine is the best. Drum sounds. I can create a drum beat just by clicking, even though I have 0 drum skills of my own. This is going very fast. I think I want this whole project to just be a lot slower. So let me just slow this whole thing down a little bit, just so it's a little more visible. So if I make like a drum beat pattern, I can change the drum machine I want. So there's all these ones that are, free. And then there's some in the Music Makers one if I wanted to do this, like a more standard acoustic drum set. Ooh. These are really popping there. All right, so now I have this little drum beat that I just made in my project. So, let me move my little looper. Hello, I am a robot. I think Maine is the best state ever. I wish Maine had more robots. So I can program a drum beat that way. If I wanted to change the instruments, as you can see, there's like a little drop down. So instead of the hi-hat, if I wanted hi tom and just had this like, hello, I am a robot. Hi tom is sounding more like a shaker. If I wanted to add other sounds, let's see, like a crash cymbal. Let's see what that's. This crashes a little click. So what I like about these drum programmers is it looks like this one is not all of the instrument sounds are uniform across all of the drum sets. So this machine, for instance, it says crash, but it's giving me like a little click sound. I'm going to ask Soundtrap about that because that's sort of strange. But you can, without the ability to, play drums very well, you can program a little drum beat like this. Another fun one is just like the piano typing, how you can play out the musical parts on the piano. You can do the same things with the drums, except it gives you like a drum set instead. So if I press the A on my keyboard, gives you that. Try all these different. And I can record that way too if I wanted to. So if I delete that, I could just turn my metronome on and let's get this cool ethereal thing in the background and record some drums. Ready, go. Now, obviously, I'm a pretty terrible drummer, and so that wasn't that great. But I can go into this. The last thing I'm going to show is this Quantize feature, and Quantize is basically just rounding everything off. So it lines it up with the grid. So if I played something a little bit late or a little bit early, it'll round it off, and you can select what value of rounding. So let's round it off to the 16th note, and everything will lock in place a little bit better. So all those when I was like diddle diddle diddle, and it was all out of time, that's been locked into, and now it's all like right on the 16th note. So that's sort of an overview of Soundtrap. Obviously, you all are getting a lot of ideas, which I really love. I love the fact that you're like sharing and collaborating that way. And does anyone have any questions on this specific software in its general overview?
Going once, going twice. Sold. That's awesome, Spencer. Thank you for taking us through that, because I think everybody's, like Charlie said, everybody's brains are spinning right now with that, which is good.
Yeah. So I wanted to take a moment to ask you all what were some specific like questions or challenges that you were all dealing with as we're doing remote learning that you're trying to find answers and solutions to. And I'm actually going to open up a little. I'm going to unshare my screen.
While you're doing that, Spencer, I can just let you know that generally speaking, we have an access to technological devices constraint, just based on districts' budgets and prioritization of materials. We also have some pretty intense connectivity issues for teachers and students around the state as well. So there's about a little over 30,000 students statewide, if we look at grades 3 through 12, that are lacking devices right now, just because a lot of our schools can't afford in their budgets to go one-to-one for students. So the Department of Education is looking at the bigger picture of that and is working with some national partners to try to bridge that gap. And also just having reliable connectivity to the internet for a lot of places in Maine, a lot of regions of Maine, is a big challenge as well. So those are two hurdles that unfortunately most of us, our hands are tied on. at this stage in the game. So we're trying. Districts are running the gamut between running a virtual schedule online with teachers and students all connected and trying to follow their normal schedule, all the way to other schools that are still trying to figure out how to make sure that their kids are all getting food. So the whole spectrum. So yeah, so everybody has their own individual needs, and I've been hosting some office hours over the last 2 weeks, just for people to be able to talk about what their individual challenges are, so that we can collaboratively try to get over some of those hurdles. But anybody else want to chime in with where they're at right now, and what if they're thinking about taking a step forward, what are they thinking about?
I'm setting up my classes for my K through 2 kids on something called Seesaw. And the question I had from my administrator was, and I've seen this in videos and heard about this, is kids are starting to get overwhelmed, and so are the parents, with the amount of stuff being sent home, because the teachers don't know what everybody's asking the kids to do. There's no central clearinghouse for this. And so parents are going, oh my God, my kid has 7 to 9 hours of work every day, et cetera, et cetera. And that was one of the things I thought we might run into when we started this. There's no way for me to know what everyone else is doing. So on the K through 2 end, I've just been sending home, here's the song, sing, have a good time. And then again, you can set it up so that kids don't respond or can be asked to respond. And I put it up so don't respond, because I don't want to go chasing 400 kids' responses. Because a lot of the things that I think people set up, or administrators set up, is they don't think that somebody's going to have 400 kids. They're going to have 20 kids.
How about anybody else? Anyone not in
Our
over?
school is similar in that any of the specialist groups were kind of asked to take, I mean, backseat's not the correct term, but it's the term I can come up with at the front of my brain. So that homerooms could kind of grapple making those initial contacts and getting, because they were afraid that if we all chose a route of communication, if we all ended up choosing different ways of communicating, we'd see people at home getting really overwhelmed, saying, well, I gotta use Google Meet when I talk with the music teacher, and I'm using Skype when I'm with the art teacher. So our school is still trying to figure out what routes do we want to use best, and then the specialists will be asked, okay, this teacher is using this method, why don't you hop on with them and share what you're doing?
When did Maine go remote?
It was a week ago Monday, so it would have been the 16th, I think.
Okay.
So the governor declared a state of civil emergency on Sunday night, the 15th, and then some school districts had voluntarily closed the last few days of the week prior to that, but this is the start of week 2 of being remote.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
So New York was the same. It was 2 Mondays ago.
Yep. And frankly, Wade, as much as we don't like when we're put in a position to take a back seat, I think there's a bit of an advantage or a silver lining to it here, because we can all regroup together and we can work with people like Spencer and others to try to figure out our own system of what's going to work for us. So, if there was a silver lining to taking a back seat on something like that, I think that's probably the best way to look at it.
Yeah, I can definitely understand a parent being like overwhelmed by if each individual teacher is coming up with their own plan. That just sounds terrible.
Well, and this has just exposed how we as much as connected as we are, and as much as we integrate and use technology in our classrooms, we really didn't have a plan for doing this. So we're realizing that we're really connected, but there's no real system with it. So sorry, Sandy and Diane had some things to chime in with. Go ahead, Sandy.
I teach middle school, and I just asked a few of my kids point blank how they were feeling, and their email boxes are as full as ours are. And it's very daunting for a 7th or 8th grader to look at that stuff, all the submissions, all of the assignments, all of now this is late, from everybody. And we've been told the things that we need to do. So we're trying to do that and do it earnestly and well. But here are these kids who are handling stress too, and their inboxes are full as well. So implementation is certainly not perfect right now.
Diane, did you have a? Dan, you're on mute right now.
I'm getting the impression that we're trying to overdo things so we don't have anybody crabbing at us. We're trying to we're trying to get it so perfect that we're overwhelming everybody. Somebody described it to me once: we're designing the airplane as we're flying it.
Absolutely.
And I did attend a podcast the other day that said, if you do one simple thing during this, that's a big step. Give yourself time to get used to this.
Go ahead, Diane.
Well, I think one of the biggest things that I'm struggling with a little bit is our schools are so different, and nobody, you said, when did we go live? Well, my school has not gone live. We were told not to submit anything online until this coming Monday. And, it's our first 2 days were spent calling every kid, making sure they had food. And, for me, I'm struggling with, well, this school is already up and running and they have 17 expectations, and, and less is more right now. And I think, because like Sandy said, even my high school daughter, she hasn't had a lot of contact from her school, but she's getting hundreds of emails, and she's a senior. And it's just it's so different. And I know it's probably, because we're isolated in different pods of the area, but I think for me, I'm like, well, that school's not doing this and that, and I get caught up in that a little bit, or the expectations for this school is different than this school. And I think I'm just getting overwhelmed with everything a little bit.
Yeah.
We were told today that the parents are getting overwhelmed, and please don't send anything new to them. And the kids shouldn't have any more than 2 hours of screen time. So I'm trying to come up with my little ones, activities they can do, like outside, or, call a friend and sing the song to them, things that gets them away from the screen. And then my 3 through 5, I just linked, I copied the link to all the guitar lessons and put that in Google Classroom for Little Kids Rock. So all they have to do is just hit the link and it takes them to the guitar lessons, or the keyboard lessons, so that they can explore that on their own without me saying, this is what I want you to do, because I know they have so much that they have to do with their regular teachers.
This is actually a really good segue into the issue that I'm running, and some of you were there yesterday when we had the meeting, is that so I teach 5th graders the Little Kids Rock program, and I do 2-week units. So week 1, the first 2 weeks would be drum set. Week 2 and 3 and 4 would be piano. Week 5 and 6 would be guitar. 7 and 8 would be bass guitar. We are in the guitar unit when this happened. So understandably, not everyone has a guitar at home. I've told the kids, hey, you can watch videos 1 through 10 on the basic guitar, learn about it. How do we make it meaningful for students who don't have a guitar at home to actually practice it and use it to their full advantage, instead of sitting there and just watching the videos and going, that's great, I'm not going to remember this next week because I can't implement it. So what advice do you have for us that students who don't have instruments at home to be able to use the Maine Little Kids Rock program?
I think to the like top thing is to set realistic expectations, because so obviously not every student is going to have stuff accessible, and just as like people were talking about like reducing screen time and less is more, I think for a student, for example, like on the live stream, I think it was yesterday or the day before, Mary Claxton did a lesson on how to make a drum set with just like junk at home. And so she had like some like old like plastic containers and some glass jars, and she was using like kebab sticks and was like and was like doing a bunch of different like drum activities. So there are like vocal exercises, there's songwriting stuff, there's percussion exercises that students can do without materials, with just like stuff, either they physically don't need anything else, or it can be stuff that they can find at home, and allowing students to sort of like guide their own learning activity within that. And then maybe the assignment could be something along the lines of just like, you know, reflect on what you learned, the progress that you made, something cool that you discovered, whatever that might be. And if a student, you know, has the ability to like access a guitar or something like that, then that's, you know, obviously wonderful, and that student could be able to do that. I know that we compiled a list of all of our remote learning activities that when this all happened, one of the first things that came out was like, okay, what are all of our lessons that students can do regardless of what instruments and whatnot they have? And we came up with a list of that. So I'm going to see if I can get Jason that list, so that way he can get it out to you all, because we definitely wanted to make sure that we were focusing on,
You know,
yes.
and also,
I was going to say, any specific ideas on guitar?
I was just going to chime in since I'm a guitar player. Sorry, this is Scott again. Hi, everybody. You know, I look, since there's only so much fun and excitement you can have, like even having kids watch these videos and strum along with nothing, right? You know, like at some point they're just going to not be that excited about it. I would look at this as a state of shift. It's really easy to figure out how to do body drumming and stuff like that at home. It's easy to figure out how to do singing at home, even though kids probably, if they don't want to sing, they're not going to want to sing. But what you might say is, if you're on guitar, you might think if this is an opportunity to do a project with guitar study. So for instance, like with my high scores, this would have been really easy. I would have been like, pick your favorite guitar player. Give me a map of your 5 favorite songs by them. Talk about their influences. Identify, you know, these key phrases. Like I would turn it more into a general music lesson about the guitar, where they're still kind of studying it, you know. Or you can give like a list of, you know, 50 guitar players, or even, you know, since we're not able to practice right now, go on the internet and review a couple of different songs. Find me 5 songs that use the power chords by looking at, you know, these resources, those kind of things. Like that's where I'd probably try to go. And, you know, worst comes to worst, you end up with like a big list of resources for future students to use years coming forward.
Thank you, Scott. So Jason, I just found that page and emailed that to you.
Awesome. Perfect, Spencer. I was just going to say, I've set up a Google Classroom for all music educators in the state that they can get connected with. So I'll make sure I put that right in there so everybody has access to it. That's cool. Thank you.
That chicken on a thing too, and just warm it once that starts to cook a little bit.
And I know that there are some other activities that, like, that's a big thing that we're focusing on within the live streams that we're coming up with, is like coming up with activities that are less focused around having specific instrument or technology needs, so students can do that. Like Mary did the little junk drum set thing, and she's doing another one. I think we're doing it tomorrow, which is about listening. And she does some like guided listening, which is like she listens to a piece of music and does some drawing and guides it through that way. So just as the families are being super flexible right now, like flexibility, I think, is definitely key. Other specific concerns or questions?
We're so chatty.
Some
I
of you
really
are
think
super
everybody's
chatty.
brain is oozing out their ear. I'm not sure how many people still have a whole lot going on up here, but remember, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So everybody be cautious with that. We need to make sure we get some play in there too.
If we don't have another Zoom
I
meeting.
have a problem. Maybe somebody can give me a suggestion. I sent all of the concert music to my second graders. I got permission to do that, but I don't have any way to send the recorded music to kindergarten and first grade. We are only allowed to use Zoom or Dojo. So any suggestions?
And are these like you have like MP3 audio files that you're trying to send them?
Yes, they're MP3 audio files.
Is there a means of like you can't like email the parents, or is there a messenger within the within Dojo or within Zoom?
Well, the problem with that is that would be, what, 200 and something emails that I would have to try to find. So,
So, Lynn, I'm looking at the share features right now in Zoom, and
yeah.
you can share files. Up
Oh,
at
you
the
can?
top, you have, it gives you, when you sign up for your Zoom account, if you haven't already, look under the share feature and see if you have, I have a basic tab, an advanced tab, and then a files tab. And files gives me a chance to use Dropbox or Google Drive. So if you could put your MP3s up into Google Drive, then you might be able to, it's my understanding that the Zoom accounts are supposed to be full accounts for everybody. I don't, there's, if you get the basic account, it limits you to 40 minutes, I think, for a presentation.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Okay. So I've been told mixed messages on whether they're supposed to be full accounts or not. I thought that they were supposed to be like pro accounts is what my understanding was. But did you just sign up for one, Lynn?
I did after our meeting
Okay.
the other day, and
Okay.
it came up basic.
Okay.
I had to pay to go.
Let me see if I can find any more information about that. But if you look under share, then see if it gives you an option to share files, because that might be an easy way to do it, especially if you're able to get your class in a Zoom.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I've never done it myself, so I don't know how well it works, but it's worth trying. So.
Now the thought would just be if you could share it with the homeroom teachers, and maybe they just have 20 people to manage instead of 400 or whatever. That, you got to utilize someone else a little bit. Maybe that might help.
That was a comment I heard from a fellow teacher as well, that to avoid the overload on parents, that they were asking like the specialists to funnel things through the classroom teacher, so that the parent was getting one email message, but within that email message, or however they were getting in touch with the parent, is embedded everything that's going on for the day. So I know they had assigned, like Mondays was art day, and Tuesday was music day, and Wednesday was PE day, so that because music teachers tend to be across the grade spans, so that you're working day to day for a particular grade span, but from a parent's point of view, they're only hearing from the music teacher maybe once in a week, and it's embedded within what the classroom teacher's offering. That maybe that helps at least cut down on the number of documents that they're having to open.
Yeah.
The sharing with Class Dojo, you might also be able to, I know there might be legality around copyright law, but you might be able, and I don't use Class Dojo, but from what I know of it, you might be able to just give whoever's running that dojo class a hyperlink that just links to, if you had that posted on YouTube, if you had the audio with a picture posted on YouTube, perhaps they could just share that hyperlink in Dojo, because I think Dojo kind of reads almost like a Facebook scroll going by.
Someone was saying, like, if it was on all just in a Google Drive folder, and you could share like the link to the Google Drive folder, so that way someone could open that up and just see the different audio tracks. Yeah. I'm looking at the chat right now. Everyone show off your cat.
Yay.
So Josh gets to be the James Bond villain of this particular Zoom meeting. He's got his, there you are, sitting in your evil cave.
Oh, that's
your
right.
evil
There's a
cat.
Chat. There. Sorry, the link that I just posted in the chat was just the the school closure resources from Little Kids Rock. So if you click on that, it's our upcoming live streams, our previous live streams, and then the links to like music lessons without instruments, music lessons with instruments, and then a few other bits of support.
And I just put it in our Google Classroom too. It's at should be at the top there, so you'll have access to it after the session.
Great.
Everybody else just overwhelmed.
Well, I mean, the Brady Bunch is how we live our lives now, it seems. Yeah.
Nice. That's good.
This is the story of a bunch of teachers.
I'll be Alice, the maid.
Yeah. Who are hanging out eternally on Zoom.
I don't think so, Charles. I have dibs on Alice.
Oh, that's true. Alice can be Alice. Yes, yes.
Well, there should be a butler.
Oh.
So maybe a little off topic, but to a question that I have, I mentioned earlier that I retired and I spend winters actually in New Hampshire now. And I noticed that Little Kids Rock happens in like 45 states, but not in New Hampshire. It's like, why is New Hampshire missing, and how do I get it happening here?
You hold
for your guy, baby.
As I say, Spencer or Scott could speak to that, but I will tell you, correct me if I'm wrong, Spencer, but like March was supposed to be implementation month, right?
Yeah, we actually have some teachers that have already been implementing this, like a few of them. But yeah, we've been working with getting it more on board with Marshall McCaffrey there. So we're hoping that soon there will be a launch.
What a month to have a launch.
Yeah.
Jeepers creepers.
I mean, I'm already like, just all I can think about is like, when's my trip to Maine coming? You know? So
We'll let
2021.
We'll let you know, Scott, when we open everything back up.
I have a little story about the Little Kids Rock, because I only do mine in the afternoon, but so when I sent out contacts to 6th graders, it's actually Dan Labonte's son. His name's Mason. He's in a wheelchair and he's got some, little things, that he can't do. But his biggest concern was, is the jam event canceled? Like, I can't, like, can you post things so that we can, and it's like, it's an extracurricular, it's no credit, it's after school, it's, he was more concerned about that than anything else in his world right now, that we're not going to have after school rock. So kudos to you guys and what you're doing. So
I can speak to that a little bit because I was on a call with some other LKR people earlier today. You can either consider it a really long postponement to the fall, or you can say this year is canceled and we're going to have a new one next school year. It really depends on how you want to look at it. But it's just with the uncertainty of what a schedule at the end of the year could look like, let alone let's say we get back into school, what are going to be district priorities for trying to finish out a school year, and whether field trips are going to get canceled or what. I mean, it's hard to tell. So we just decided that in the interests of being prudent and LKR, they're not sending you guys anywhere either. So so the idea that we would just kind of put it on ice is really where we're at. And I feel for our LKR partners and friends about having to make the decision about the summit in July is really going to be I know that decision's coming in the next couple days. So I guess we'll keep our fingers crossed and hope that we flatten the curve enough that we're
that's the hope.
We're able to rock and roll with that. So, but yeah, so jam summits for Maine are postponed until further notice. So
I'm not going to, Jason, I'm not telling him that.
Okay? Oh, good. Don't tell him that, please. He did. By the way, Diane, I don't know if I told you this that night when I came to your school. He did such a fantastic job singing. I mean, he just he had there were no barriers for him. He just went for it.
No, and
it was awesome.
He plays piano on another little song, but that just goes to show you he's digging it. And he, like I said, he could care less about anything else, but that was his first question to me. So I'm not telling him. I'm just going to say, hey, we are going to perform one way or the other, and I will make that happen for him. So
You got it.
This morning, I was invited into a virtual concert where just like the teacher had all of his students chime in, and then had some of his friends who are musicians and some of the kids perform for each other over Zoom, and it was really great. I mean, the audio quality was terrible, but it was like it was wonderful just to like people be like, "Hey, this is me. I'm playing a song," and it was like some of the I think like one of the administrators or something was like, I'm learning how to play the recorder, and played like Hot Crossbones on the recorder, like just to participate. And then like the teacher also had some like really talented friends who like played these absolutely amazing things. So it was really wonderful to like just be there. It was kind of like nice respite from like everything.
I just say one other commentary and I'll let go, but someone mentioned that, we weren't necessarily asked to take a back seat, but I can appreciate that sentiment in the sense that my school is only allowing 2 hours for kids, end of discussion. But keep in mind that part of that we do is their best part of their day. So to retreat from anything, I think would be just terrible, because for some of my kids, it is their peace of mind, and it's their little break from science or math. And so when it's all focused, so that 2 hours you can't fit yourself into, I think that's, for some of these kids, it's going to be pretty tough.
I know that we have some large ensemble colleagues around the state at different levels that have had success in getting their classes together by Zoom, and I know that some of them have just listened to a piece of music together, all on the same call in the same room, and that's just been a chance, like you said, Diane, a chance for them to have a social connection there. I think bare minimum what Zoom is going to do for us is just going to be trying to maintain some of that contact with our students. And then if we can figure out how to make the platform go beyond that, then we're winning all the way.
I will tell you though, Jason, if my school is like super resistant to any video conferencing. Mm-hmm. And I've been fighting it tooth and nail, and I get some of I get it, mm-hmm. teaching where I teach. I get it. But what we do is communal, mm-hmm. and it is connecting. And my kids want to see my face. I can tell you that. And so I'm fighting it, but
oh yeah,
I'm struggling a little bit right now.
I've been so more and more concerns are coming in to me about teachers saying, I have things ready and I have things made and I have things uploaded and I'm ready to go, but my district is tying my hands on how I can communicate with my kids. So I've been kicking that up to the commissioner's office, and I got word from the commissioner this morning that she had kicked it up to the attorney general's office, and that they're going to be taking a look at FERPA and what can we do and how can we be able to engage with our students in a meaningful way through this kind of platform, and whether it's going to remain a local controlled decision is really going to time's going to tell on that, as soon as the attorney general hopefully can give some guidance, some legal guidance to school districts about how to proceed with that.
Well, thank you for pursuing that, because
it's important, because again, we can only do so much. And then if there's policy, protocol, and law that's standing in our way, so we need to figure it. I think we need to talk about the barriers in order to be able to try to get around them or over them.
Yeah. Well, I think some of the thing they're worried about what the child is going to see in your home or what you're going to see, mm-hmm. And they may institute, if it's pushed through, the parameters would be it has to be an adult in the room or that type of thing. But in some instances, I know that the older brother or sister is taking care of the sibling, because mom and dads are still working, some of them. And so it's going to be difficult at best.
I know our school has, we use Google Meets instead of Zoom. I prefer Zoom more, but I think Zoom costs money and our district didn't pay for it. So we do Google Meets, and I know for reasons we can't record our meetings. We can have the meetings with the students, it doesn't violate any FERPA laws, just seeing each other, but recording each other and some of that, we can't do that.
And I was told the opposite. If you're going to do, if it goes through, then everything will have to be recorded, because I think it's a CYA.
Mm.
Which I guess I can see both sides of that. But what's interesting about that is we don't record our regular classes.
No.
So the gray area with all of the law is really starting to muddy the waters a lot here.
Well, if this could help out, somebody said this to me the other day, because we were chatting, another teacher of mine, I thought, if it can't be an adult at home, situation, could it be another teacher? Like say, okay, Diane, I'm going to be your surrogate for this class X, and if you can be my surrogate, we're trying to help each other. If that would be the adult. So I don't know, but I know it's a barrier for me if it's going to have to be a parent, or if they don't let it happen at all.
Yeah, and I know that the commissioner is calling around to other states too to see what their departments of education are offering for guidance on that.
Yep.
So I think it's a testament to us as teachers that we so want to connect with our kids that we're trying to jump the line on this. I think that that's very telling of our intent to want to do good with this. But there may just come a time when we just have to sit back and wait a little bit for some of that legal posturing to go back and forth.
Yeah.
And there are other parties that need to weigh in that, frankly, again, have been involved in more universal decisions, like trying to get kids fed, and things like that. So.
But if you look at the other side of that, Jason, if you have a special needs child in your middle school chorus, they're going to be able to connect and participate a lot better this way than if you said, I'm going to send home this link and you have to use your computer and you're going to have to log on.
And so these are the cases that we need to make to our administrators about showing them how we use the technology in a positive way.
Yeah.
To engage kids, because everybody's got a lot on their plate, and school leaders may just not be thinking about all of the pros behind this. They're trying to do a little bit of covering.
Yep. Yep.
Anybody else?
I can speak here. Can you hear me?
Absolutely, James. Go ahead.
Yeah, just to go back a minute here, we were talking about Zoom and people doing live concerts and stuff. And I know if anybody has I think I should make a list of all the famous musicians we've seen making stay-at-home videos. I know Paul Simon, I think, has done one, Michael Stipe, REM. But there's a whole bunch of them. I haven't had a chance to look at them all, and maybe some of them are worthwhile sharing with students and some of them aren't. But it's been a chance to catch up on a lot of things that I haven't seen before. People send you links to things. I've never heard this band before. I've never heard of this, and some of it's really creative. So in this regards, it's perhaps a blessing in disguise in some way. But I am missing the face-to-face, day-to-day things. I just thought to throw that in there.
And we need to make sure that we remind everybody, when this all blows over, what did everybody turn to help them get through this? Thank you, Spencer. I see. Oh yeah. Like, people turned to music. Musicians gave free concerts and live streamed things, and there are other Berlin Philharmonic opened up their whole concert library for everybody. So everybody turned to the arts in order to be able to cope with this. So that's why we're important in the school curriculum, period. There should be no more question after this.
Peter Martin taught at USM for years and years and years, and I think he said music is basic because emotions are basic.
Oh yeah. Yep. So we just need to say, remember how emotionally unstable everybody was during COVID-19 in 2020? Yep. That's why we have arts education. So that we can all cope with that better.
Just saw the Met, and Turandot came on, and there went Nessun Dorma, and I was a puddle of tears.
Melt me. Anything else for the good of the order, anybody? Spencer, you have anything else you want to throw our way?
I just wanted to, I also don't want to just oversaturate you all, because I'm sure you're already receiving, as many emails as the kids these days. I just wanted to say thank you so much for still having this. It's always wonderful to connect with teachers. I really hope I could get to Maine sometime soon and see all of you in person. But I wish you all the best. I love that cat. That's a really great cat you got there. Thank you so much for having me. I hope you found something valuable here. It's always good to, and thank you for sharing the things that you're struggling with. Because I need to hear it directly from teachers. I can only imagine. I can come up with things that you might be struggling with, but I need to hear it from you to know.
This is fantastic. I got to tell you guys, I'm super bummed about May and planning on coming up there and seeing everybody. So we'll have to find some other excuse sometime soon, because it's not the same without our trips up there.
So Scott, you and I are gonna do maybe like late summer. We'll go and hang out. Peak vacation time. We go take just a personal trip to Maine.
I think so. I think we'll have to visit every single teacher individually for like 3 weeks. We'll just hit it.
I got a camp on Cobbossee. You're all invited.
We'll drive into Portland and we'll do a full Maine road trip.
You guys
Beautiful.
In Freeport. We live in Freeport, and we'll invite you to our Maine MMEA executive retreat in August. There you go.
Oh yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, awesome. Then you can go see Diane. Her place is gorgeous.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys all very much for all this, and thank you.
Very cool. Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Everyone so much.
Thanks.
Sandy, great to see
Thanks,
you.
Spencer and Jason. Thank you.
Take care, everybody. We'll be thinking of you, Spencer, as you're locked down.
Thank you so much. Be well, everyone.
Okay.
You too.
Take care of yourselves
Bye,
and each other.
Charlie. Bye, everybody. Bye, Josh.
Bye-bye.
Sandy.
Good to see you guys.
Bye, Charlie.